quick shout out to our sponsors, Englesey Family Chiropractic. He is in Coeur d'Alene and Spokane Valley. Dr. Englesey is amazing. I've known him for 30 plus years. He helped me to get feeling great after not seeing a chiropractor ever in my life. He was the first one I saw, and I am feeling great because of him. Go check him out. Englesey Family Chiropractic. Taigatu Clothing Company. It's a lifestyle brand based out here in the Pacific Northwest, owned and operated by two brothers. I love this brand because they started in their garage as a hobby and they've blown this thing up. Look, their motto is freedom from ordinary. I definitely recommend you go check out Taigatu Clothing Company. Rewebbed Inc. It's a family and veteran-owned full-service digital agency. I've been working with these guys for a while, and there's a few things that I can tell you about them. They're very trustworthy, they're transparent, and they're honest. They're on this mission to help small businesses grow and get modern without losing the value that actually built those businesses. They're definitely worth your time. Go check them out, rewebbed.com.
Ian, you're an active duty U.S. Army and co-founder and chief operating officer of Rewebbed, which is a full-service digital agency. First of all, thank you for your service and thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I mean, we appreciate your support, and I've been following you and watching what you're doing, and you're active in the military crowd. So we appreciate that.
Man, thank you so much, man. I like to start my shows off going back to the beginning here. Where'd you grow up and what was childhood like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I moved around a lot. So I was born in Northern California, lived there till I was 5. My dad was working in a mill and we were pretty poor. And so, from there, he pretty much took on a pharmaceutical sales job. And that was his first out. From there, we moved to Beaumont, Texas. From Beaumont to San Antonio to Colorado, Colorado to Jacksonville, Florida to Zimmerman, Minnesota, and then Minnesota back to California. And then I ended up enlisting and joining the military, and I left out of Minnesota. So I've been all over the place as a kid. We were moving, watched my dad climb up the corporate ladder and kind of go through all of that. So yeah, it was, there was a lot of moving, a lot of adapting, learning how to meet new people and be personable and, get people to like you. That was a big struggle moving to a new school, especially moving in high school. You're resetting everything again, and people have their cliques, so you're trying to learn how to fit in. I was big into sports, so I played baseball. I was a starting pitcher, loved being the center of attention and on the mound. And I ended up throwing out my arm. So even to this day, I can only throw about 2 pitches, and my arm's shot. I have Tommy John surgery if I wanted to, play again.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the death of that. And, I started getting bored, and when us humans get bored, we start getting destructive.
Totally.
So from there, my dad got me into entrepreneurship. When I was about 16, he gave me my first deal, if you will. And so my 16th birthday rolled around, and he goes, you can have your Benelli Supernova shotgun, the shotgun I always wanted as a kid. He goes, or you can have $3,000. And so I was sitting there and I was like, well, sweet, I'll just take the $3,000. I'll buy the shotgun and I'll win. And he was like, here's the exception though. He goes, you cannot use this $3,000 to buy anything personal. It's an investment into a business, and I want it back within 6 months.
Wow.
So I was sitting here and I was like, well, how am I supposed to do that? And I remember his response. He just starts laughing. He goes, what, I need to give you the money and tell you how to generate more of it? And he's like, here's the money. If you want it, figure it out. So that kind of started the whole journey. I started a knife sharpening company. So I went to Home Depot. I got the 1x30 belt sanders and was going around to every butcher shop door knocking. And I mean, if it was a restaurant, a butcher shop, anything, I mean, I was hammering on doors at 16.
Wow.
Hey, can I sharpen your $500 knives? So that was kind of where that started. Around that same time though, my mom, she started drinking. She got into, or she became a alcoholic. So that kind of was something that was pending in the background. So as I was trying to grow and, do all these fun ventures, we dealt with that a lot. And that was an extremely difficult time. I mean, it was to the point where I wasn't inviting friends over. I was kind of hiding this issue that all of us families have. And you don't really know how to handle having an alcoholic in the family. It's not something anyone ever, teaches you to deal with.
Totally.
So I handled it the best I could until I just couldn't take it anymore, and I ran away. It is now 1.5 years later. I'm about 6 months from turning 18, and I looked at my dad and was like, I'm an adult now, I'm leaving. And, he could have said no, held on to me for 6 more months, but he was like, it's no easier out there. And so basically said, have fun, allowed me to go and, take on that venture, which is where I pretty much wasted, I'd say, 3 years of my life. So from 17 to 20 I'm still in the military, so we'll leave that whole phase out. In 3 years when I get out, we can have that discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went down a really bad road out there, was doing some just dumb stuff. And then when I turned 20, my dad calls me again and he goes, he's like, I remember it because back then he was very blunt and that was how he got through to me for me being as hard-headed as I was. And he goes, are you done fucking around out there and wasting your life? And as soon as he said that, I kind of sat there on the phone because we had this conversation the year prior. Right. And I just kind of brushed it off and was like, I'm doing great out here. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't need you guys. And then finally, this year when he asked, something just clicked. I remember sitting on my bed and I was like, I am. And he goes, you're going to pack your car and you're leaving tomorrow morning. He goes, I will pay for the gas and one hotel. He goes, because that's all it takes between getting from Minnesota back to California, which is where he was living at the time. And he goes, you're going to pack what you can in your car. And I don't want any excuses. You're going to be back in my house by the weekend. So I remember just sitting there and I sat up and was just thinking about it. And I took him up on his offer and was like, it's time I started getting my life back on track. So went back to our house, and within 6 months he got me. So keep in mind, this whole time that I dropped out at 17, I never finished high school. So I was basically a high school dropout at 20 years old and had been lying on my resumes and applications to get jobs. So like, for example, when I was 18, I got a job at a car dealership, but really I was 17 and a half. But I put on my resume that I was 18 years old. And, as I was selling cars and making a killing at it, I was loving it and got in trouble for that. They found out I wasn't 18, 4 months in, and they kind of just were like, how long? Said 2 months. And they kind of played the game of like, all right, you know what? We're going to brush this under the rug and we're going to wait out the 2 months because you're doing good. So went and did all that type of stuff, had 100 different jobs.
Yeah.
When I got back to California, I just remember like I hit the ground running. We got my high school diploma at 20, which again, I thought it would have been a GED.
Yeah.
But I got the real diploma. After that, then I went to the Air Force and I walked into an Air Force recruiter and I was like, I want combat controller or a PJ, pararescue. And I was like, those are the only two things I'll take. And keep in mind, I was probably 6'1", maybe 150, 160 pounds. And I'm walking in there saying I want to be a PJ, and they're just looking at me like, dude, you couldn't even carry the kid. Right. And I spent 12 months. Or it was about 8 to 12 months of, I remember I didn't have a job. All I was doing was just lifting and working out and training every day, 6-7 days a week to try and become a PJ. The slot never opened. So finally, I go into the recruiter and I'm like, hey, I am enlisting today or I'm going into the Army. So the Army came around and I walk into their office. I was like, this is what I'm training for. I'm signing today. And long story short, now here I am in the Army, and I'm currently with 10 Special Forces Group, supporting their guys and loving it out here. So that's kind of the long roundabout story of my upbringing.
No, dude, that story is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, man.
Absolutely.
That is such a crazy story, man. I was going to ask, because as you're telling that story, I'm like, man, when did he enlist? But so you actually ended up enlisting after like around 20 years old or so, right?
Yeah, so I turned 21 2 weeks into basic training, and I remember because it was the second week, you're still in, I think it was red phase, if I remember their phases right. And that is like where they're just smoking you, the entire time for no reason. And we'll get to it here in a little bit, but it was kind of funny because my drill sergeant I actually went through recruiting school with him a few months ago. And so when he was sitting right behind me, and I'll never forget it because they said his name and I just turned around, looked at him, and I did a couple of double takes, and like the hair on the back of your neck stands up because you're like, this is the dude that spent, months just destroying me.
Right.
And, so yeah, it was hilarious. But yeah, I turned 2 weeks into basic, turned 21. And it was every time they said my name, I was doing 21 of whatever exercise they wanted. And then at the very end of the day, they were like, all right, man, you were a good sport about it. Now what do you want? And I was like, I want all of you to drop 21 times. And every single one of them, drill sergeants and everybody that was around, did 21 push-ups. So I was like, it ended up being pretty cool. And after that, I was like, I'm going to love the Army. This is great.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. So tell me how Rewebbed came together, man. And obviously this is an entrepreneurial thing that you and your dad did together. Was he did sales for a while, but was he kind of always an entrepreneur as well?
Yeah, so he's been in the corporate lane his whole career. So he was actually when we were first living in California, when I was like born to age 5, he was actually scrubbing the chimneys of a paper mill. And so, It's hot as heck out there, and he's out there scrubbing chimneys. And when he decided that enough was enough, he took the corporate route, and he started there. And now he is the VP of a pharmaceutical company, VP of sales. So he is still in the sales lane, ended up working all the way up, and I saw him do that. And that's kind of where Rewebbed came around. Was I took a 0 interest loan from the Army. So this is something that's kind of an interesting part of my Army story is, it was 4 years in, I think it was 4 or 5 years in, and I re-enlisted. But my re-enlistment terms were I wanted $40,000. And I was very specific about the amount I wanted because I knew with that money, then I was going to start a business. And if you've seen me wear this Country Nav shirt around. So Country Nav, this is the company where it all started. So this is the very beginning. I started a clothing or a outdoor apparel company with that $40,000. Not gonna lie, for 5,000 of it, I went and got my lifted truck and went and had fun in the Fort Bliss desert. And you have to have fun with a little bit of it.
Yeah, sure.
But the other portion of it, I started the company. It started going well. I moved to Colorado because I was at an aviation unit, and then now I'm up here with 10th Group. Once I got out here, I started really working on this, started hammering down. And it was every time I needed a change to my website, I had to hire someone. And I am a very independent person. I don't like having to rely on others, especially when I have the vision in my head, let alone trying to find a digital agency in the outdoors world. Like no one understands the outdoors industry if they understand tech. And so there's kind of like this disconnect going on there right now. The entrepreneur in me saw the opportunity. And so I put Country Nav on halt, took the funds that we were making with that, went to my dad, and, when we play business, it is not dad, it's Bill, and he is now an investor and he wants his money. So there is no like, you hear and you see these entrepreneur families where everyone's like, oh, well, his dad's successful, he gave him this. Let me tell you, there's some phone calls of when am I getting my ROI, and we're playing that game of, it's Bill. And so that was very strict in the beginning. We set our ground rules, and Rewebbed began. So I started learning web design and development. So my wife actually laughs at me because I would stay up, and not even exaggerating, I took a week of leave. So 7 days of absolutely zero of the Army touching me. And for that 7 days, I was doing 18 to 20 hours a day, learning off of a platform called Udemy. And it was $5 per course of how to learn web design and development. And I coded for 18 to 20 hours a day for that first week. The whole week I was on leave. Left that and was like, all right, I think I can code some websites now. Made the Country Nav website, and then started freelancing and working for other people that we knew, building their websites. And then that was what really caught my dad's attention, was the profit margins and kind of how the whole web design space is. It's a very lucrative business if you are talented and if you can continue to do the right thing and take care of your customers, because it's very referral driven. People want to know that you have experience and that other companies are happy with you. And so once we started doing that, that was the first stepping stone for Rewebbed. From there, we started looking into branding because I knew there was more than just web development for a company. I want to start being that full scope solution of, I want to turn you into a brand. I want to make your website. And then after that, I want to do marketing with you too. And so that's where Rewebbed is today.
Come on, man. Now, on this entrepreneurial journey, when you first started with this apparel company and kind of transitioned to Rewebbed there, what's a major failure that you ran into, and how'd you get through that?
A major failure. So, there was numerous. The lack of credibility of I am in the military on active duty. That was the first objection that you see a lot. And so that is something for a lot of our soldiers out there is, they don't spend their money on the best things, we'll put it that way. Sure. And so that was one thing that you look at and you wonder why soldiers do that, is because the Army takes so much of our time, and it's almost impossible to be an entrepreneur in the military, just because, prime example is we're running Rewebbed. I'm the COO, and there's a lot happening right now for our scaling and growth. And last month, the Army called me and was like, hey, you're going to the field for a week to go train our soldiers how to do, skill level 10 tasks. And so basically you're going out there teaching them how to shoot M240s and doing all of this stuff. And so, I love that though. I absolutely love leading and, taking care of our soldiers. And so of course I'm going to go out there, I'm going to be happy doing it. But on the downside, then you have to fill in that gap on the entrepreneurship side.
Right.
So as far as a failure, there was numerous along those lines of, I failed to be at my post, if you will, for Rewebbed because of the Army. There was a lot of that happening where I had to learn how to empower the people around me. And that's a really big thing that I've learned in entrepreneurship is building the right team, because your team can make or break you. Yeah. And then also empowering them and trusting in them that you're going to give them training, you're going to do the right things to help them learn and grow, and that they're going to stay with you, and that they're not just going to, up and leave regardless of the non-competes.
Right.
And so, I would say that's probably one of the hardest things that I've had to adapt to. I mean, as far as downright failures, I would say the first 15, 20 websites I've made, when they start crashing because I'm a self-taught coder that only had a week of experience in the beginning, 4 or 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, that was a very tough thing for me to do. And it's just keep taking that next step. You just got to keep stepping forward, just keep grinding on and getting better on every website.
Yep. Man, absolutely. You and I were both fans of Ed Mylett, and he's really big on doing a morning routine or having that kind of set to kind of kick off your day. I'm big on the morning routine, but what's your morning routine look like?
Yeah, so I actually changed my whole routine because of Ed Mylett. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to mentor me at some point in my life. That is something on my vision board. That is something that, I would absolutely love to have somebody of his caliber doing the things that he's doing. And I truly believe he's genuine at it. And so with that, I've been watching a lot of his content. And one of the things he talked about was breaking your day into 6-hour blocks and then optimizing every hour. I thought I was good at managing my time. And then all of a sudden I came across that message and I started implementing it. And now it's, from 6 to noon, how much can you get done? And you're optimizing every hour. So if I'm doing cold calling, and I'm getting 20 calls in from 9 to 10, can I get 25 from 10 to 11? And can I just keep improving? And then same thing though, too, is he teaches a lot about reflecting. And when you're optimizing, it's not about sheer numbers. It's also about where are you most effective. And so for one of the things that I've learned is, you can push out 25 calls in 1 hour, but what if you're more effective at those 20 calls? So if you're converting, more people off of 20 calls that are a little bit slower, a little bit more personable, because people buy from people. And so that's a super important thing is, crafting those relationships and learning how to optimize. So first and foremost, I have the Army to intertwine with this too. So that adds the extra, kick of some days I'll get up at 3, some days I'll get up at 4, but I get my workout in first thing in the beginning of the day. And that's how I start my day is I wake up, don't touch any electronics for the first half hour, go straight to my vision board and remind myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing and where I'm going. From there, head off to the gym and I listen to my podcast while I'm in the gym. So Bradley, Ed Mylett, Andy Frisilla, I like to mix it up. And I'll listen to a different podcast, depending on the mood I'm in. If I want to be yelled at, Andy Frisilla. If I want some good, some good advice and the little bit more laid back educational stuff, I'll go more towards Ed Mylett. And then after the gym, then get ready for the Army. So now I'm heading off to the Army, go and do that at noon. So for our lunch break from 11:30 to 1300 or 1 p.m., then I will check all my emails. I'll respond to all of our clients. I'll check in and make sure that everything with the company is going well. And then, carry on through the rest of the day. And whenever we leave the Army, depending on what's going on that day, I'll get home. As soon as I get home, then I try to give my wife the first hour of me being home, kind of unwind, reset from the Army. Because you can't go into business with the same mindset that you just spent all day with the Army.
Right.
And so from there, she gets an hour, I unwind, and then usually it's up till about midnight. 11 p.m. to midnight. I've actually got alarms on my watch to let me know when it's time to, a half hour before it's time to go to bed. So everything's driven off of my watch right now of like these time blocks.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's crazy, dude. What a crazy schedule. I thought my schedule was crazy, but you seem like you've got a crazy, insane schedule too, man. But dude, looking at your resume, so to speak, online, dude, you've won 7 Best Warrior competitions, 2 Special Force Commando competitions. What do these competitions entail, man?
Yeah, so that's funny. You did some digging, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so the one up on the wall is actually one of my favorite ones. So we made USA Today, the Army Times, the El Paso Times, a bunch of newspapers. So my last unit, we were an intelligence unit, and so that was down at Fort Bliss. We were in aviation, and this is a Special Forces Commando competition. from my knowledge, an intel unit has never won anything physical, ever. That's just not their specialty. And so it was really funny because, I take great pride in my physical fitness, being around the guys that I'm with right now. That's why I re-enlisted to come here. And I hate the stereotype of, oh, well, you guys were intel, so you're going to, just sit in the skiff all day and you're not doing any work. I want to outperform everybody. I want to make sure that I'm on that level. And the unit that I was at had that same mentality of guys too. So my commander was he was the one that was leading the competition, and we won it the first year. And everybody was like, oh, it was a fluke. You guys, you just got lucky. So the second year we came back and we won it the second year in a row. And it's a super awesome cause. It's for Staff Sergeant Joshua Mills. He passed away, and so he was a Special Forces soldier. They honor him with this competition every year down at Fort Bliss, and it's an incredible competition. And so it was, if I remember right, it was 5 days, and each day there's a new event. And so you go through, you're doing a 12-mile ruck march, you're doing like ammo can carries, you're doing log carries, you're doing, I think it was 5 or 10-mile runs, and then there's a whole series of events in between too. And so you're basically being tested mentally and physically the entire week. And they're tallying up the scores of who could do this, the fastest and the quickest. One of the events is an upper body round robin. So your whole team has to be squared away because you're doing pull-ups, bench press, push-ups, sit-ups. And I mean, it is just, they are testing every piece of you. And that's for the SF, the Special Forces Commando competitions that we won for the best warriors. Those actually started all because I was a private and was trying to prove that I could earn the next rank of specialist. And so I was a private first class, if I remember right, for my first win. And one of my leaders came up to me, Sergeant Huey, and he goes, hey, you're doing this best warrior. And I had no clue what it was, but he saw something in me. It was like, you're high speed. He was like, you're going to go do this. So I did it and I won it and was like, that's kind of cool. So I won it for my battalion level. Then I went up and won it at my brigade level, and I kept going. And it was the regionals for Department of the Army. It was funny. So that 12-mile, I was running around this track, and it's a ruck march. So you're doing a 12-mile ruck. And as far as I'm tracking, I still hold the record there. And I did a 12-mile ruck march with, if I remember right, it was 45 or 50 pounds of gear. And I did it in an hour 45. So I just took off running, and I just remember I did not stop running the whole entire 12 miles. And I think the next closest guy to me was about 20 minutes behind me.
Wow.
And so what was funny, though, is for this competition, there was a general out there, and I had no clue, his rank. He was out in civilian PTs. And, when you're in that very competitive mode, you are talking shit to everyone.
Yeah.
And so, I was joking with him. I passed him the first time, and then the second time coming around, I was like, come on, old man, you can keep up, and was just joking with him. And, it was good humor. He was calling names and joking back. And when we got on the grandstand, then he was the general, and he turned around and was like, one of these athletes behind me and warriors. He's like, they were talking crap the entire time we were out there. And it was funny because at the very end, when I finally crossed the finish and I saw like who he was, because he was in uniform at that point, then I didn't know that I had torn my meniscus and like numerous things in my knee. It was pure adrenaline, just feeling me. And I just remember as soon as I stopped, I just fell over. And so that kind of downed me for a couple of years. And that was my third win for a best warrior. And I didn't want to end that way. So I was like, you know what, I'm going back. And I just kept competing and kept winning them. And once I got promoted to sergeant, then I was more focused on that point of helping our soldiers and making sure our soldiers had experiences like that. Because in my opinion, once you become a leader, it's no longer about you. It's now you're taking care of your soldiers and you're there for them. And so that was kind of the final hoorah, was winning those competitions, going and doing all that stuff, get promoted, and now I get to help others do the same.
Come on, man, that's awesome. What a great story, dude. Super excited. Hey, I wanted to shift to a couple fun questions for us before we end.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've got these things. They're called pod decks. It's purely random questions, man. I'm going to pull this up. Hopefully it doesn't flop on us. We'll see what this says.
Oh, man.
What weird food combinations do you really enjoy?
What weird food combinations do I really enjoy? Well, it's not very common. And, there are some people out there who like them, but I don't really mind MREs. If you've ever had an MRE, then that there's a lot of people on the fence that they're complete trash. Okay. I'm not going to go out of my way and eat it for dinner, but, that's something that if we're out in the field, everyone usually complains about, oh, man, we got MREs today. but I actually don't mind it, mainly because you're out in the field, you're living that experience, and I mean, I can enjoy an MRE if I'm out in the field.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. I'm a music guy, so I always love to ask this question. What's the favorite type of music or favorite band for you?
I am very diverse, so I love music. I will listen to pretty much anything and everything now. Right off the bat, I think of my playlist, and it really just depends on the mood I'm in, but it's got a mixture of I Prevail, Drake, and definitely Brantley Gilbert. So it's about as extreme of a playlist as you can get for spectrums, but I love music, so.
Love it, man. And I'm a big Brantley Gilbert fan as well myself, man. But Ian, such an honor to have you on my show. Thank you again for your time, for your service, man. I think Rewebbed's got some huge things coming. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
Thanks for watching the show today. I really appreciate it. Hey, if this show moved you or made an impact on you or inspired or motivated you, that's my goal. Please go leave us a review and a rating wherever you heard or watched this show. Leave a comment. I'll respond to all of the comments. I'm so grateful for you. Please go share this video as well. Thank you again for your time. Have a great day.